Welcome to Preeminent Test Prep. Today I have two SAT writing tips and tricks for you. One dealing with commas and such as statements, and the other dealing with how to effectively set up examples in the following sentences. So the question that says in 41, which of the following or which choice most effectively sets up the examples in the following sentences? That's a fairly typical question on the SAT writing section. So I'm going to give you my advice on how to approach that as someone who has scored perfectly on the SAT writing section on 2 SATs back to back. And then 42 deals with such as and when to have punctuation around it. So I will also address that in today's video. So with that, let's go ahead and get started. So we're going to start up top here at the beginning of this paragraph. That way you can kind of get an idea of context for how to set up the examples in the sentence, right? So we have well worrisome, the decline of traditional print media, and then this is going to be need not entail. 40, the correct answer there is going to be need. I'm not going to get into that because that's not part of the tips for the day. Then we go on, we have 41. At this point it asks us to set up examples in the following sentences. So in order to know what sentence 41 should be, I have to know what my examples are going to be. So I have to skip down. So I'm not even going to read sentence 41 yet because I don't know what it should say because I have to know these examples first. So if you're asked for which choice is going to effectively set up the examples in the following sentences, go ahead and skip that sentence and go down to those examples and read those first because you're just wasting time if you read 41 because you're probably going to end up changing it. So we have nonprofit enterprises such as Organized Crime and Corruption Reporting Project. Now in this case, I'm going to go ahead and answer question 42 because I see it's a simple grammar question, so I want to answer that as I read on. So I see I have nonprofit enterprises, and then I have such as the Organized Crime and Corruption Reporting Project have begun to fill the void created by staff losses at newspapers and magazines. Now in this case, such as here is restrictive, okay? Now if such as were non-restrictive, or non-essential, you would have a comma before it. But in this case, it is restrictive because it's referring to the Organized Crime and Corruption Reporting Project. Okay, so in this case, it is restrictive because it wouldn't be allowing for more than that one. Okay, so in this case, it is restrictive. Now, when such as is restrictive, you do not want to have a comma before it. You want to have no comma before it, and you're not going to want to have a comma after it. So in this case, the correct answer would just be A. You don't want to change it. Now, if it were restrictive, so say for example, if it were non-restrictive, say for example, you had a full sentence, and then at the end you had a comma, such as, and then just a few examples that you could take out. You could take out such as in those examples and it would still be a complete sentence. Then you would want to have a comma before the word such as. Now in this case, you can't do that. Okay, if you were to take out such as the Organized Crime and Corruption Reporting Project, then you would be changing the meaning of the sentence because in this case it is restrictive. Okay, so if it's restrictive, you want to have no punctuation before or after such as, but if it is non-restrictive, you would want to have a comma before such as. So in this case it is restrictive, therefore we want the correct answer of A. Now we can go ahead and read on and get our examples and then answer 41. Okay, so we have begun to fill the void created by staff losses at newspapers and magazines. Enterprising freelance reporters, newly funded by nonprofits, make extensive use of social media, including blogs and Twitter, to foster a public conversation about key issues. The Help Me Investigate project solicited readers to submit tips and information related to ongoing stories for his website. So I see all of those are going to be examples of how we have investigative journalism coming in new forms, right? We have innovative ways, changes to past times, right? In the past, we know that investigative journalism was largely done through print media. Now we see that this increase in technology in these changing times, right? Recent years have witnessed innovative adjustments to changing times, right? We have new forms of investigative journalisms headed by nonprofits, headed by social media, enterprising freelance reporters. Okay, so our correct answer for 41 then would be D. Now let's go ahead and cover why A, B, and C are all wrong for 41 because it's important to understand why some answers are incorrect. All right, so A, no change. Well, no change says, although many newsrooms have reduced their staff, some still employ investigative reporters. Well, that's not addressing these innovative things and these innovative adjustments that have been made in the marketplace, right? Now we have people using social media. We have nonprofits entering the marketplace now. So it's not just those old print newspapers, and 41 doesn't address that, or A doesn't address that in 41. So A is incorrect. B, investigative journalism also declined between the 1930s and 50s, only to be revived in the 60s. Once again, that's not introducing those innovative examples that follow. Now, option C, according to the Pew Research Center, more people get their national and international news from the internet than from newspapers. Once again, that's not addressing those innovative ways that come to follow, right, that are in the following sentences. Now, does it address it more than A and B? Yes, but at the same time, us saying, according to the Pew Research Center, more people get their national and international news from the internet than from newspapers, that's also not addressing the key part here that is investigative journalism. We want to focus we want to focus on investigative journalism, and that doesn't say that. That's talking about the news in general. So that would be moving away from the main idea of this passage, right? We want to introduce these examples of innovative adjustments in investigative journalism to these changing times of changing technology. So our correct answer there would be D. Okay, so if you have a question that's asking you to set up the examples in the following sentences, what I recommend doing is not even reading the sentence it's talking about and just skipping down to those examples. Read those examples, figure out what it's talking about, come up with your own answer, then you can go back and find what would set up those examples. If you try to answer it without reading on to see those examples, you're just going to end up getting it wrong because you don't know what you're supposed to set up. So you want to make sure you read those examples first, then go back and answer your question. Right, and I already talked about the such as statement and the rules grammatically for that one. So that takes care of the tips and tricks for the SAT writing section of today's video. As always, make sure to like, share, and subscribe. I have a 90-day SAT prep course available on my channel. I scored 1590 on the SAT, and I think that 90-day prep course would certainly help you prepare for the SAT. If you are interested, you can find it. It has its own playlist under my channel. As always, make sure to have a great day.